Panenka. In 1976, Antonin Panenka walks up in the Euro final like a man who either has ice in his veins or absolutely no survival instinct. West Germany have just bottled their penalty. Belgrade is silent and everyone expects a normal smash into the corner. Instead, Panenka waits for Sepp Maier to dive early, then chips the ball straight down the middle like he's paying for parking. It's soft, slow, and disrespectful in the funniest possible way. Europe is stunned, Czechoslovakia win the Euros, and football accidentally invents its most iconic ego move. The reaction is pure chaos. Old school pundits call it career suicide disguised as confidence, the kind of penalty you try only if you're either brilliant or allergic to consequences. But Panenka swears he practiced it for years, planning to punish goalkeepers who commit too early. And Maier, he commits earlier than a Black Friday shopper, gifting Panenka a free highway down the middle. One touch later, Panenka becomes the guy who beat a powerhouse without even trying to look powerful. What makes the Panenka special is what came after. Strikers everywhere start copying it, and 9 times out of 10 it ends with the ball in row Z and a striker pretending he slipped. But when it works, stadiums melt. Fans treat it like the ultimate mind game flex. Analysts still argue whether it's genius or pure arrogance, but everyone agrees on one thing. The Panenka turned a penalty into a personality test, and every time someone tries one today, the whole world flashes back to Belgrade, where a gentle chip changed football forever. Zidane's World Cup Panenka. In 2006, Zinedine Zidane steps up in the World Cup final like a man who isn't aware a billion people are watching him, or simply doesn't care. Italy versus France, the rivalry already boiling, and Zidane chooses the most "I dare you to judge me" penalty in history. He leans back, gives Gianluigi Buffon the tiniest shoulder feint, and chips the ball like he's lofting a golf shot. It kisses the crossbar, bounces down, and barely crosses the line. Every French heart stops, every Italian one breaks, and Zidane just walks away like he ordered that goal on delivery. The commentators instantly lose their minds. A Panenka in a World Cup final is already wild. A Panenka against Buffon? That's borderline disrespectful. The risk level is ridiculous. Miss it by an inch and Zidane becomes the villain of France, not the king. But that's the point. He takes the highest pressure moment football can offer and turns it into casual elegance. No power, no panic, just absurd confidence. Even defenders admit later they wouldn't have tried that in a friendly, let alone a final. Within hours, the replay becomes global folklore. Kids attempt it in playgrounds. Analysts break down the micro-feint in Zidane's shoulders like it's NASA footage. Buffon himself later says he had no idea what was coming. The clip loops non-stop, partly because of the goal and partly because everyone knows what happens later that night. Zidane's Panenka becomes the calm before the headbutt storm, a moment of cold brilliance just before his infamous exit. And somehow, that contrast only makes the chip feel even more iconic. Cruyff and Olsen pass penalty. In 1982, Ajax get a penalty and Johan Cruyff decides he's bored of normal football rules. Instead of smashing it into a corner like a responsible adult, he taps the ball sideways. Defenders freeze because nobody has a defensive plan for whatever this is, and Jesper Olsen calmly returns the ball back to Cruyff for the easiest open net finish of his life. The stadium doesn't just cheer, it erupts in disbelief. Half the crowd thinks they've witnessed genius. The other half wonders if the referee should call a timeout to check the rulebook. Either way, everyone agrees, this is football reimagined in 2 passes. The beauty of the move is how violently it breaks every penalty instinct we've ever been taught. Penalties are supposed to be tense, dramatic moments, not 2 teammates casually recreating a training drill. Cruyff doesn't care. He turns a high-pressure situation into a playground routine and proves creativity can be deadlier than power. And once the clip spreads, players everywhere try to copy it, which leads to one consistent result: absolute disaster. Turns out timing, confidence, and a partner who actually knows what's going on matter. The funniest part? Arsenal's infamous attempt in 2005. Robert Pires tries to play Cruyff, Thierry Henry tries to play Olsen, and together they create one of football's greatest blooper moments. The tap is too soft, Henry arrives too late, the crowd groans, and the internet enjoys an eternal feast of second-hand embarrassment. It's the kind of moment that reminds you, when Cruyff does something experimental, it becomes art. When other teams try it, it becomes comedy. Jorginho hop skip. Jorginho walks up to a penalty like he's entering slow motion on purpose. One hop, one pause, and every goalkeeper in England suddenly remembers they have knees that can betray them. The trick is simple: freeze the keeper, force a weight shift, then roll the ball the other way like you're doing admin work. His Chelsea debut made the hop-skip world famous. Defenders watched it in real time, goalkeepers watched it in nightmares. When the hop lands cleanly, the conversion rate goes through the roof. When it doesn't, well, that's where the drama comes in. Euro 2020 gives us the perfect example. Italy versus Spain, semi-final, everything on the line, and Jorginho steps up with the same slow, calm walk he'd used to pick up a parcel. He hops, and this time, the timing betrays him. Miss. Suddenly, the world goes from genius to, this guy is a menace to goalkeepers. In about 3 seconds, critics start calling the technique anti-keeper manipulation, which is basically football speak for, please stop confusing our goalies. But that's the entire point. The hop isn't power, it's psychology. Keepers start studying him like he's a university module. Manuel Neuer even analyzes the hop pattern, waiting for the exact microsecond after the pause to hold his ground instead of diving early, and once one keeper figures it out, the rest follow. Suddenly, Jorginho's hop faces countermeasures, defensive patches, and enough scouting reports to fill a library. But even then, when he nails it, the ball still slides in with that annoying, effortless calm that makes defenders want to unplug the sport. Bruno Fernandes' slow walk. Bruno Fernandes walks to a penalty spot like he's late for absolutely nothing. His approach is so slow, so painfully calm, that keepers start panicking before he even reaches the ball. That's the trick. Stretch the moment, stress the goalkeeper, force an early guess. And it works. From the second he arrives in 2019, his Premier League conversion rate shoots up like United just unlocked a cheat code. It isn't power or placement, it's pure body language reading. One glance at the keeper's hips, one tiny adjustment, and Bruno just passes the ball into the opposite corner. Of course, the style comes with its comedy reel. Every now and then, the stutter misfires and the internet immediately clears its schedule. Viral memes appear before the ball even stops rolling. Fans joke he's buffering mid-run-up or downloading the perfect angle. Opponents, annoyed and slightly embarrassed, start calling for referees to crack down on the pauses, as if Bruno invented time wasting. But the frustration is proof the technique works. It gets inside defenders' heads before it even reaches the keeper. Still, the slow walk rhythm has a weakness: pressure. Big moments tighten the timing and the whole style collapses if the read is off by half a second. When he misses, it looks worse than a normal miss because the entire build-up screams, "I've got this," right until he doesn't. Those moments feed the banter that follows him everywhere. Rival fans don't even call him Bruno anymore. He's Penalty Bruno, a nickname thrown around with equal parts envy and mockery. Neymar futsal shuffle. Neymar steps up to a penalty like he's back on a tiny futsal court in Brazil, embarrassing kids twice his size. The shuffle isn't some gimmick he invented in Europe. It's straight from those childhood deception drills where changing tempo meant survival. One slow touch, one quick step, one pause, and elite South American keepers start short-circuiting. They can't time him, they can't read him, they can't even decide whether to dive or wait, and that split-second hesitation opens shooting lanes big enough to drive a bus through. Copa America clips show it perfectly. He toys with the keeper's rhythm, then slides the ball in as if the goal belongs to him. But with Neymar, nothing escapes criticism. The moment he adds flair, people accuse him of showboating or being theatrical again, as if Brazilian football isn't built on exactly that. The shuffle looks playful, almost disrespectful, and defenders absolutely hate it. Yet the technique is brutally effective. He changes speed 3 times in one run-up, and keepers panic because they're programmed to react to patterns, and Neymar refuses to have one. It's not chaos, it's timing weaponized. Of course, there's a modern enemy he never trained for: VAR. A long check can freeze the moment just enough to ruin his rhythm. Neymar's shuffle relies on flow and instinct, not standing around while referees draw geometry on a screen. A long delay and suddenly the tempo feels forced, the timing less natural, the magic disrupted. It's the rare situation where technology beats technique. Lewandowski stutter freeze. Robert Lewandowski steps up to a penalty like he's loading a precision tool, not taking a football shot. One controlled run, one sudden stop, and every goalkeeper immediately panics. That stutter freeze forces keepers into early shifts. Even elite ones can't resist leaning a little too soon. In the Bundesliga, it works beautifully year after year. The numbers stay absurdly consistent, like Lewandowski is inputting a cheat code rather than taking a penalty. The whole technique lives on timing, discipline, and the tiniest ankle adjustment. When it lands, it looks surgical. But the World Cup exposes the downside. Under real pressure, when the entire stadium feels tighter and every heartbeat gets louder, the stutter can betray him. If the pause is mistimed by even half a second, the whole system collapses. Goalkeepers hold their ground, Louis hesitates, and suddenly the ball ends up somewhere he didn't intend. Those high-pressure misses show the truth. His method isn't just physical, it's psychological. And when psychology cracks, so does the finish. Analysts love breaking down his technique like it's a physics experiment. They rave about his ankle control, how he disguises direction until the absolute last frame, how his body barely telegraphs anything, but keepers watch too. Bayern's dominance means endless scouting videos, and after a few seasons, opponents start reading his patterns earlier. The edge dulls a bit, not enough to stop him, but enough to make the duel less one-sided. Ivan Toney, keeper-only focus. Ivan Toney walks up to a penalty like the ball doesn't even exist. He never looks down, not once, which already makes goalkeepers uncomfortable. His eyes stay locked on them the entire time, like he's waiting for a secret confession. The moment the keeper twitches, shifts, blinks, or even slightly leans, Toney picks his corner and passes it in with ridiculous calm. That's why his Premier League conversion rate flies past 90%, and suddenly every analyst in England starts treating him like a case study. It's not power, it's not trickery, it's pure observational dominance. The delayed decision is the real weapon. Toney doesn't choose a side until the keeper gives him a single micro movement, a toe flex, a shoulder dip, a tiny weight shift. Under stadium noise, pressure, and 50,000 people yelling, he still waits it out. That takes absurd composure. Analysts compare that poise to prime Pirlo, the kind of ice-cold stillness most players wish they had, and it works because keepers are human. Eventually, they blink. Of course, the style has one hilarious weakness: when the keeper refuses to move. If a goalkeeper decides, fine, I'm just going to stand here and be a statue, the whole system gets awkward. Toney still scores most of those, but the occasional miss comes from keepers who simply refuse to play his game. It turns the penalty into a staring contest with a football at stake. Balotelli, one step ice cold. Mario Balotelli takes penalties like he's running on a different speed setting than everyone else. He doesn't sprint, he doesn't stutter, he barely moves, one tiny step, then total stillness. He waits for the goalkeeper's first twitch, like a lion waiting for a mouse to blink. And the moment that keeper shifts even a millimeter, Balotelli just rolls the ball the other way with zero emotion. That's how he built a ridiculous 26 from 27 streak at Inter and Manchester City. Fans weren't just impressed, they were confused. How can a run-up that short make keepers freeze like statues? The technique is pure psychological warfare. Balotelli turns the penalty spot into a staring contest he almost always wins. Critics, of course, hated it. They called it disrespectful, arrogant, too calm for a sport built on chaos. But that nonchalance is the weapon. While other players pump themselves up, Balotelli looks like he's waiting for a bus. Keepers expect power or pace, but instead they get a striker who refuses to panic even for a second. And the weird part, that calmness terrifies them. But even ice cracks. His infamous miss against Napoli becomes the moment Italian media explode. The headlines practically write themselves. Balotelli finally punished for arrogance, the one step that went too far. Time to grow up. It's the kind of overreaction only Italy can produce. One miss suddenly becomes a crisis, even though the technique still works better than almost any other run-up on earth. Pressure changes narratives faster than skill ever could. Eden Hazard walking delay. Eden Hazard walks toward a penalty like he's casually strolling to the fridge. No rush, no tension, just that calm, near walking pace that instantly annoys goalkeepers. His eyes never leave them, not even for a split second, as if the ball is just a background prop. And during his Chelsea prime, this routine is basically a cheat code, nearly flawless conversion rate, keepers diving early out of impatience, and Hazard passing the ball in with the confidence of someone selecting the easiest option on the menu. It's smooth, simple, and ridiculously effective. But the technique has a delicate side. When Hazard moves to La Liga, the timing becomes harder to protect. Spanish keepers hold their ground longer, hesitate less, and force him to make decisions quicker than he likes. Suddenly, the walking delay looks less like genius and more like a gamble. Critics love the deception, but question how long such a fragile rhythm can survive at the top level. And to be fair, when the timing is even slightly off, the whole thing collapses. Still, the composure required is insane. Most players sprint up, overthink, or psych themselves out. Hazard acts like the pressure doesn't exist, like he's immune to the stadium noise wrapping around him. That unbothered confidence becomes his trademark. Fans give him the perfect nickname, the silent assassin, because he doesn't roar, doesn't perform, doesn't even celebrate dramatically. He just walks, waits, and finishes. Signori no run-up precision. Beppe Signori steps up to a penalty like he's skipping the tutorial entirely. No run-up, no shuffle, no elaborate routine. He just plants himself beside the ball and hits it. Serie A defenders can't believe what they're seeing. A striker taking a penalty without moving first. It looks wrong, like the game glitched for a second, but then the shot comes. A tight left-footed strike with insane placement. No momentum, all accuracy. And somehow, it keeps beating keepers who know exactly what's coming. The technique is a physics lesson disguised as confidence. Without a run-up, Signori relies entirely on hip strength and absolute body control. There's no extra power source, no steps to build speed, just pure mechanics and a left foot capable of threading a needle. His conversion rate climbs so high that he quietly becomes one of Italy's penalty icons, a specialist who turns a disadvantage into a signature weapon. Of course, the margin for error is microscopic. One wrong angle, one slight mishit, and the ball drifts wide because there's no backup power to save it. That's why his rare misses feel catastrophic. Fans don't just gasp, they wonder how such a precise technique can go wrong. But that's the deal with no run-up penalties. They're brilliant until the moment they're not. Diego Perotti, zero-step modernization. Diego Perotti takes the no run-up idea and upgrades it like a software patch. Instead of standing still like Signori, he adds one controlled step, just one, turning the old-school concept into a modern, sleek, single-step strike. Roma fans fall in love with it instantly. He looks composed, ice-cold, almost casual, like he's placing the ball instead of shooting it. And because the movement is so compact, keepers get almost nothing to read. No long stride, no wind-up, no early tell. Just a sharp step and a clean finish. The whole technique lives and dies on timing. There's no power boost, no run-up to bail you out. Just a perfect moment where mechanics line up. Perotti has to keep his body tight, hips steady, and foot angle flawless, which sounds simple until you realize goalkeepers are watching for the tiniest hint of direction. That's why his penalties feel like mini masterclasses. Everything is deliberate, everything is controlled, and when it works, it looks almost unfair, but the margin is thin. One wrong read, one misjudged heartbeat, and the shot loses its edge instantly. His rare misses remind everyone how brutal the technique can be. There's zero room for hesitation. Without momentum, you can't muscle the ball home. You either time it perfectly, or you don't, and when you don't, it shows. Pogba marathon run-up. Paul Pogba steps up to a penalty like he's preparing for a light jog around the park. 26 steps, yes, people counted, and every one of them feels like its own episode. Fans stare, commentators pause, keepers start wondering if they're supposed to stretch again. The run-up is so long and so slow that it actually weaponizes suspense. By the time Pogba reaches the ball, the goalkeeper's nerves are already fried, and when it works, he just side-foots it in with the calmest finish imaginable, effortless chaos. Naturally, the internet does what the internet does. The moment Pogba debuts the marathon run-up, memes explode worldwide. People recreate it in playgrounds, living rooms, supermarkets, anywhere with enough space to walk in slow circles before kicking something. His reputation becomes inseparable from the run-up. Even neutral fans tune in just to see whether he'll do the steps. It's rare for a penalty routine to become pop culture, but Pogba manages it instantly. But the style has one major flaw. Confidence is the engine. If Pogba's mood, form, or pressure meter dips even slightly, the whole technique feels shaky. Keepers hold their positions longer, the pacing drags, and when he finally hits the ball, the finish can look awkward instead of composed. Opponents love mocking his misses, exaggerating the run-up like they're doing comedy impressions. Fair or not, the penalty becomes a running joke every time it fails.